Well, when we talk about being called by God, of course, there are lots of different ways that people experience that calling. For some, it comes all in a moment, and there's some time when it becomes clear to them that they're being called. But the reality is, of course, is that all of us are being called. That because we are baptized, God is calling us in some way to serve and follow Him. And really the question is how do we learn where that is and how we are to best use what God's given us to serve. So my story is actually simple but a little bit longer, because when I was in high school, I had grown up in a Catholic family. I was an altar server. I was active in catechism and in youth group, but I was one of those young Catholics that I would go to church and I would visit Jesus once a week, and the rest of the time I didn't bother him, he didn't bother me. We had something of a distant relationship. But when I was a freshman in high school, I was 14, I went on a retreat, and at that retreat I got to meet and talk with young people who really were so committed to Jesus. They loved Him, they were passionate about Him, and I found something in their relationship with Jesus to be very attractive. It was something that I wanted. And so I began to really focus more on my relationship with Jesus, upon my religious observance. These things became a much higher priority for me. And while I was in high school, the question of, is God going to call me to some sort of ministry like the priesthood or the diaconate or some other professional ministry, started to come up in my mind. I talked about it a little bit with people at church, with my parents, and ultimately when I finished high school, I decided that I wasn't going to go directly into college seminary, but instead I was going to get my degree just so that I could figure out exactly what God was saying. So I actually went to Michigan State. I am a Catholic Spartan. And what I did is I spent 4 years there getting a degree in communications, thinking about ministry as a possible focus. And I hung out a lot with very devout Christians, some Catholics here at St. John's, but I went to a Baptist Bible study. I went to a Black Pentecostal church on some Sunday mornings if I went to the Saturday night vigil. So I actually spent my time surrounding myself with other people who loved Jesus. And in that, it became clear to me that God had given me certain gifts, and that I was sort of starting to become something of a kind of a leader among those who were Christians. And so I began to sense that there may be some Christian leadership in my future. So after college, I did a little bit of odd jobs and working. I did date, and I had some girlfriends along the way. But ultimately, I ended up working at a homeless ministry in the city of Lansing. And it was during that ministry time that it became clear to me that God was calling me to ordained ministry as a Catholic priest. And so after 2 years at the homeless shelter ministry, then I left for seminary. I started with the Diocese of Lansing, and I went to the Seminary Sacred Heart in Detroit, which Father Mike also went to. But this is kind of my story. So I had a sense that God had plans for me, that God was calling me, but it took me some time to where I could narrow down, yes, but what is He calling me to do? And do I have the proper gifts for ministry, like ordained ministry and other ministries that God may call me to? And it was that discernment and that time then that helped me to make it clear what it was God was calling me to do. So I think for all of us, the two important things to remember are that we are all called by God through baptism, and that we should ask and seek God, what is it you want me to do? Do you want me to be married? Do you want me in ministry? What type of ministry would you like me to do so that I can serve your church and serve your holy people? So that's pretty much my story.